Thousands of people in Spain are suffering from the cruel experience of having the banks repossess their homes, and yet are still stuck with repaying the bank for the entire sum borrowed. In this News Plus, we'll meet a man who fought back. He sued the bank, and then the case went all the way to the European Court of Justice. First, here's his story, then we'll talk to a judge.
There's something special about Mohammed Aziz here on the right. The same thing that has happened to many thousands of other people in Spain happened to him, but he's fighting it. He lost his job in 2009 and then the home he had bought near Barcelona 6 years before with a bank loan of 126,000 euros. In 2011, the savings bank had him evicted because he was 4 months behind with his payments. Since then, he and his wife and their 3 children have been living in a subsidized apartment where the rent is 270 euros per month. He tells us, "I spoke with my lawyer, Dionisio's father, who has since died. He told his son, and we started looking for a way forward. That's how we got this far." Mohammed refused to give up. Because he put up a fight, the European Court of Justice ruled against the Spanish eviction law. Other judges can now refer to that ruling and preempt or suspend other evictions. Lawyer Dionisio Moreno has always been ready to defend the underdog. This time it was like David against Goliath. He says Mohammed came to me with a friend of his to explain his problem, being late paying the bank back. We tried to negotiate an agreement with the bank, but they refused and went ahead with the eviction. So Moreno took the bank to the trade court with a complaint that it had infringed the abuse clause against his client. The conversation, he tells us, went something like this. When we showed up, the banker said, "Oh, so you came?" And I told him, "Yes." And he said, "But we've already repossessed your client's house." And I told him, "Well, listen, he has a stubborn lawyer, and we're going to keep on coming." "But who's going to pay your fees?" he asked. And I told him, "My father gave me this case, and I'm not going to drop it." In fact, he took the case all the way to the European Court in Luxembourg, which said Spanish law didn't conform to a 1993 European directive on consumer protection. The struggle took 2.5 years. The ruling came on the 13th of March. At first, we couldn't open the document file sent from the court giving its decision, but we managed in the end. I skipped straight to the verdict and found we had won. Dionisio and Mohammed have won a first battle but won't rest there. They're holding out for the ultimate victory of getting the repossessed apartment back from the bank.
We now turn to the third protagonist of this story, Judge José María Fernández Seijo in Barcelona. Hello.
Buenos días, señor Fernández Seijo.
Hola, buenos días.
Usted es juez.
You are a judge at Barcelona's business court where Mr. Mohammed Aziz brought a complaint against Catalunya Caixa Bank for abuse of his mortgage agreements, and he is asking for his eviction notice to be annulled. Why did you refer this case to the European Court of Justice?
La anulación de la expulsión de su vivienda. ¿Por qué acudió usted al Tribunal de Justicia de la Unión Europea?
Fundamentally, I did it because of the Spanish system of evictions, which leads us to believe it's unfair, that the consumer can't adequately defend himself in the face of an eviction order.
On the 14th of March, the European Court of Justice ruled in Mr. Aziz's favour. What are the practical considerations for him, having already lost his home?
He's going to have to study at the court which received his complaint against the bank if his loan came with abuse clauses or not, and whether he was correctly dispossessed and evicted from his home.
The rate of evictions in Spain is dramatic. What's going to change starting now for the people affected, and what's going to change in the future when someone applies for a housing loan in Spain?
Spain delayed transcribing the European Directive on Consumer Protection for 20 years. So what's going to happen first is that judges will have more scope to revise eviction procedures and will be obliged to remove clauses, conditions which are abusive concerning interest rates and the unguaranteed variable rate clause and contract signing conditions. When the reform of the law is approved, consumers will have a substantially different environment, since Spain's case is unique in Europe.
What's the unguaranteed variable rate clause?
Those are clauses the bank uses to guarantee itself a fixed interest rate on repayment, even if interest rates drop. With this, even if the Euro interbank offered rate Euribor goes down to 1%, the bank guarantees that its interest rate will be above 4.5 or 5%. The Supreme Court of Spain a few weeks ago ruled those clauses at one financial establishment were void and must be abolished.
To conclude, as a judge, what is your feeling towards the European Court of Justice's ruling, contradicting Spanish legislation? And is it true that Spain's law on mortgages dates from 1909?
The mortgage law is from 1909, but the problem is that the evictions law is from 2000. It's sad, but in 2000, when the Civil Code was reformed, it was not adapted in conformity with the European rules. Another point is that as a Spanish judge, I'm very satisfied that a European tribunal has laid down rules that can be enforced not only in Spain, but throughout the EU. I think the European Court helps make us all more confident in a Europe of solidarity and a Europe in which the interests of consumers are defended.
José María Fernández Seijo, juez de lo mercantil en Barcelona, muchas gracias por sus explicaciones y por su tiempo.
Buenos días, muchas gracias.